Hey everyone, it's Carrie from Carrie's Wreath Creations. I'm here today to show you another tutorial video. It's going to go along with a kit that is available in my Etsy shop, and this is going to be a pastel rainbow wreath. So the layout of the petals in this wreath is going to be very similar to the other tutorials that I've shown. We're going to be doing the same petal style that I've shown many times before. The only difference is we're going to lay the petals out kind of in a cluster style according to color so that we can fit in all 5 colors of our pastel rainbow. So first, let's talk about what you would receive in the kit or the materials that you would need if you're doing this on your own. I'm going to be working with a 10-inch wreath frame. I also have a piece of plastic canvas mesh that I have cut, and I have a circle outline in the middle that's going to help guide where I put my petals in the middle. In your kit, you would receive your pre-cut pieces of poly burlap. So for this particular pastel rainbow wreath, we're going to be using 5 colors. We're going to be using the purple. I have a couple petals left to make. You'll receive purple, pink, green, yellow, and blue. So you will fold all your own petals, but I have a bunch pre-made to make the process go a little bit faster here. But I will show you how to fold them, but it's cut into 10 by 10 squares. I did use a wood burning tool. In your kit, you'll also receive enough zip ties that you need to complete the project. These are 6-inch zip ties. You'll also receive a pipe cleaner with a cable mount in order to attach that to your back or to your center, the back of your center. Your center is going to be this wooden cutout floral design with a sample of white paint. And here is what that looks like after you have painted it. Whoops, I got some little fuzzies on there. Let me get those off. But it's a white, you just paint the center white. You can obviously sort of dazzle this up with some glitter or anything else that you might want to, but with the kit, you'll receive the wooden cutout and you will paint it white. You'll receive the cable mount and the pipe cleaner. So some of the supplies that you will need that are not included in the kit would be some glue to reinforce your center. So I usually use this DAP Rapid Fuse. Hot glue will work, Gorilla Glue, just something because the sticky on the back of the cable mount is not always very sticky. So basically this little black piece here has a thing on the back that you peel off and there's a little sticky layer, but I always like to reinforce with some glue both underneath and then kind of all around the edges. You'll also need on your own, you'll need something to paint with. You'll need either scissors or I usually use just these wire cutters in order to clip my zip ties. You may also want to utilize some sort of a clip. This is just a craft clip that I got from Dollar Tree, but a clothespin or chip clip or even like a binder clip, any of those things will work as well, and this is optional. So first, let's just talk about how we're going to prep the frame using our plastic canvas mesh. So if you've watched any tutorials with me before, we do the same thing every time, and what we're going to do is put this attach this to the center here, and you're just going to do that using zip ties. So I usually kind of just go by where the brackets are. The brackets are these parts right here. And then before I get too far along here, as far as, what you need in terms of the number of each color of petal, we're using 5 colors and you're going to need 7 pieces of each. So 7 pieces of 10 by 10, that's going to come in the kit. So it's a total of 35 pieces. If you've watched any of my other tutorials where I do wreath kits, we're still going to have 20 petals on the outside layer, 10 on the middle layer, and 5 on the inside. We're just laying them out a little bit differently. Instead of kind of having all the colors in different layers, we're going to sort of be mixing them up a bit. So I'll show quickly how to attach this to the center. So basically you just go at a bracket, go in through one of the squares, make sure it's not a square where it's been cut, and just latch your zip tie. Okay, so you would do that 5 times. I don't think I really need to show. I'll show it one more time, but I don't think I really need to go and do this whole process. I have a wreath that's about a little more than halfway done. I'm going to kind of switch to that in order to make the video go a bit faster. So you would just repeat this at every bracket and then clip these off. So you'd have a total of, I do provide enough zip ties, so you have 5 zip ties to attach this to the center. Okay, so now let's talk about how we're going to fold our petals and where they're going to go. So how this is going to work, since we have 5 sections, each color is getting its own section, pretty much is how that's gonna work. So we are going to be working on bar 2, which if the outside is bar 1, this is bar 2. We're going to have 20 petals total on bar 2. We're going to have 4 in each section, 5 sections, so 4 times 5 is 20 petals on this bar 2, which is our first row. Then we're going to skip bar 3. On bar 4, we're going to have a total of 10 petals. We're going to have 2 petals of each color per section. So there's going to be 1 at the bracket and 1 in between each bracket. So it's going to be a total of 10. And then finally on the inside, which is where we have our black outline here, we're going to have 1 petal. And I think what we're going to end up doing is putting that petal in between, sort of lined up in between the brackets. So right about here. I don't think we want to put it at the bracket because we want to make sure, because basically this whole section from kind of here out, so like just like that, is going to be 1 color. So we want to make sure that inside petal lays with the right color. So I think it's going to go in between, but we'll see when we get there. So let's talk about how we attach the petals, how we fold them. So we will essentially be starting at bar 2 on the bracket. So I always prep by putting my zip tie on where I want it, and I just latch it till it clicks a few times. So this is where my first petal is going to go. Okay, I'm actually I'll fold the petal, but then I'm actually going to work off the wreath that I have started. So we're actually not going to use this. We are going to use this. Okay, so as you can see, I left a section. This is going to be the purple. I left it off. But as you can see, okay, so I already added some to row 2, the second layer as well. But if you look at the pink, for example, the pink, I only have the first row done on bar 2. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 petals. Make sure that's all in camera. So that's what's going to happen right here with our purple. We're going to put 4. So it's going to be 1 on the bracket, just like how I showed you on this one, where that zip tie went. Okay, it's down here at the bottom. And then we're going to put 3 more, and then that'll be it for this row 1 on bar 2. So to fold our petals, first let me get my zip tie on here where I want it. So I'm ready to go. And for my pre-made petals, I have them all, these are my pre-made petals. It's what your petal's going to look like. I just use little elastic bands to hold them together. You can pre-make all your petals and then add them on later if you want. That's whatever option you want to choose. If you want to fold while you go, or you want to make all your petals first and go from there, that's fine as well. Let me get this out of the way. All right, so to fold our petal, we're doing the Dean Michael Daisy petal that I've done many times. So there are a couple different ways to fold this, but basically, make sure I have enough room here. You want it curl side up. Okay, so I do try to flatten this as much as I can before I put it in the box to ship out to you, but you will still sort of be able to tell where there's a bit of a curl. So curl side up, and then you have your factory edges, okay, and I'm putting mine on the top and bottom when I lay this down. And then you have your cut edges, which is where I've cut with the wood burning tool. That is where there is a possibility of fray if you overhandle your mesh. So try to, don't try to fold and refold a bunch of times, because that's when the fray is going to start to happen. So, maybe, practice on if you have a piece of even like deco mesh or fabric mesh, something that's not part of your kit, something that's a little cheaper. If you're unfamiliar with making petals, you might want to practice first, just so you're not wasting this material, because it is a bit expensive. So curl side up, here are my factory edges, here are my cut edges. You want to keep track of that so all of your petals stay consistent as you're folding. So for me, I just give it 1 turn until it's into a diamond shape. Okay, as long as you turn it the same way every time. I always turn it clockwise for myself, towards my right hand. But whatever way you do, just make sure you do every time. And then you're going to fold it into a triangle. So just bring the top corner up to meet, or the bottom corner up to meet the top corner until you have a triangle. Okay. Now your triangle should be pretty close. Again, these might not be perfect 10 by 10 squares, but that's okay. What you want to make sure you're doing, and when you see what your finished petals, what they look like here, you want that top point to stay together, because this is 2 layers right here. Okay, there are 2 layers of mesh, and they will come apart when you start folding if you're not careful. So that would be where you would want to utilize a clip. Okay, and then I just turn it so that it's the flat edge, I have it towards my right hand. That's just the way I always do this. And then to fold this into that petal, what you're going to do, and this is how I do it, there's many ways you can, but I take that tip at the bottom here, I just fold the very tip of it under, and then I just start gathering. And I try to gather about the same amount of material every time, okay, until I get to the other end. And then I also fold that corner under, okay? And so then I have my petal, okay? And then I want to just form my petal, and I'm forming it so that it's kind of cupping downward, okay? You can certainly put them in the other direction with the cup up if you want. It's just a different look, so that's up to you. And then you're going to take that, once you like the way it's formed, I definitely recommend shaping it before you put it in the zip tie. Once you like the way it looks, put it in the zip tie, just like that. And you put it in about a fingertip, into the zip tie, okay? And then any straightening you got to do, okay? And then you can either clip them as you go or clip them all at the end, okay? So there's our first purple petal, okay? Now we still need to remember it's 4 petals per section, so 4 of each color. So I need to put 3 more purple, and then we're done with this first layer, which is our outside layer, which is on bar 2 of our frame. So I'm just putting this on bar 2, getting it prepped. I'm going to fold 1 more petal for you, and then the rest are pre-made. So again, curl side up, I have my factory edges and my cut edges, okay? I'm turning it, I'm folding it into a triangle, okay? Getting that top lined up the best I can. If I want to utilize my clip, I can. Okay, now there are other ways to fold these. Some people do a pinch in the middle and then they gather the top and then gather the bottom. You could do that if you want. You can play around with what works for you, but I just do the method that works best for me, which is to start at one end and then gather. Okay, and remember you're curling those little ends under so that they're not sticking out funny, and then you're shaping your petal, having it sort of cupping downward and then into the zip tie. Okay, and that is, when you get them all in, I mean, you're going to sort of see as you go through each section about how far apart you want them to be, but they should just be evenly spaced in that section. Okay, so there's that petal, okay, that we just added. So we're going to fit 2 more in here so that we have, it'll be 4 petals of each color on this outside layer. And so that means there's 5 colors, so it's a total of 20 petals. Okay, and so I'm just going and putting in my pre-made petal here. Okay, snip that. And then finally the last one, since I kind of did this, I would not recommend doing a wreath like this, by the way. I have petals on bar 2 or on the second layer already, and that was just because I wanted to try to get ahead before I did this video. You should definitely do all of your outside layer first, and then the second layer, and then the inside layer. I wouldn't do it the way I did it, but that's okay. You're just going to see on this last petal that I'm adding, we are going to have to tuck it behind the pink one that's already on there. And the reason for that is because there is overlap between the petals. Okay, you can see how they're laying. Okay, and this here is my factory edge that's on the top layer of each petal. So my cut edge, which is back here, is, oops, out of camera, right here, is like hidden behind the petal next to it. So right now this one's out of whack right here because the pink one needs to be, pink one needs to be forward. Okay, so I am just going to very carefully bring the pink one forward and put the purple one back, and it's just be gentle with it because again, you don't want to get any of that fray happening. And there we go. So now it's all organized the way it should be, okay? And you can fix any spacing or anything that you need to, all right? So now we need to, I already did the yellow, green, and turquoise for the second layer, but as I mentioned again, the second layer is going on bar 4, okay? So this is bar 4. We're skipping bar 3. So bar 4, our petals are going on the brackets and in between. So it's 2 of each color. So we still need to add 2 purple and 2 pink. So my purple, my first purple one is going to go next to this turquoise. It's already here, and I'm just going in right on bar 4, right at the bracket. You can go through one of the little squares of the mesh if you want. I'm not, but you can. All right, so if you can see where that is, it's right here. And I just need to add my purple petal. And there we go. Okay. And then for the next one, I'm just putting it again on bar 4, and it's going to lay in between the 2 brackets. So I put one petal is on a bracket. Here's the next bracket. So it's just going to go right in the middle. And mine moves around because I didn't put it in one of these little squares. You can if you don't want it to move, but I don't know. I feel like once I get it in there, it doesn't move because I pull the zip tie tight enough. And I like the option of being able to move it on the bar a little bit if I don't like the way it's laying, but that's up to you. Okay, so put that in. All right. And then finally, we just need to do our 2 pink. So 1 on the bracket and 1 in between. So if you are on my YouTube or you happen to watch me on Facebook Live, you'll know that I did another rainbow pastel wreath. I did it on a wreath board from Unique in the Creek, and I ended up using 4 colors instead of all 5. And then I did the color that I didn't use happened to be yellow, and I used that in the center. I had a lot of requests of people wanting some kind of kit to do that rainbow pastel flower. So this was what I came up with because quite honestly, with the materials I have on hand, I have a lot of the wire frames, and then also just with I wanted to figure out how can I incorporate all 5 colors. This was the best thing that I could come up with. So it is a kit that is available. So this is not going to be identical to the other rainbow pastel flower. If you've watched that Facebook Live, I do have it on YouTube as well. So this is a little different, but we do have all the colors in here, and it's still going to make a really beautiful wreath. So finally, just like before, this last pink petal that I put in here is laying wrong with the one next to it. The yellow needs to be brought forward, so I'm just going to rearrange that just very carefully. Okay, so there we go. And then finally, we have to do our row 5. It's 5 petals. It's not row 5. Our last 5 petals. So I think what we're going to do, and we're using this black outline here as a guide because here's my center, and I want to make sure this center covers all my zip ties and my little nubs of mesh. So I think what's going to work best is if we put it kind of in between. Well, let me see here. Yeah, I think if we sort of aim for in between where our 2, like where my green petals are here, if I kind of aim for in between, that's going to have it lay really nice and have all my green nice and organized. If you want to see that kind of from the side there, I think that's where that's going to go. I think that'll be good. So way I'm doing this is I'm going to just sort of, I'm going to go sort of where that black outline is. I might actually go a little bit farther in, like maybe 1 or 2 squares in from where the black outline is, only because I know from past experience, sometimes there's a tiny little gap around the center piece that I provide. And there are ways to, very easily hide that, but you can also just get away with not having that happen by just putting your pieces a little bit closer to the center than even where the black outline is. So I put my zip tie in, I latched it, and now I'm just going to put my petal in. And hopefully this is going to work out. I think that this is going to be a good place for this petal to lay. Okay. So that's where that's going right there. I think that looks pretty good. Okay. And then, so again, continuing on, so my blue is going to go in exactly the same sort of location where I'm kind of aiming between my two blue petals that are already in there on the second layer there. So right here, okay. And I did want to mention, if you are, you know, someone that is, you know, interested in kits and you make wreaths, I do, these same materials, you can make a different style wreath with all the exact same materials. If you want to try a different petal, I do have a video on YouTube, and I actually provide it when I give you the kit. You get a link to, obviously, this video, and then you get a link to, it's like bonus content, but it's on YouTube for everybody, and it's just a it's like a petal tutorial video, and I show you a couple different petals that you can do with this exact same amount of material and still get a full wreath. So if you want something like, maybe you want like more of a pinwheel with like more pointy petals as opposed to these like rounded petals, you can do that with the same amount of material that I give you in the kit. So the same 35 pieces, you lay them out the same, but you just get a little bit of a different looking wreath. So that's an option as well if you're interested in trying that out. Maybe you are just looking for something a little bit different than what I'm showing here. And there's also, you know, in other videos, I've done other petal styles as well. Some will work with this amount of material, and some you would need probably more than what I provide. So if you had another color you wanted to mix in or something like that, you certainly could. I need a couple more zip ties. Okay. So now and once you get to this, you'll notice when you get to this inside layer here, you are not really overlapping your petals nearly as much as you did on the other layers. Because they're just closer together, really. Well, sorry, they're actually spaced a little farther apart, I should say. Complete opposite of what I just said. What I meant by closer together is they're closer together in the center. They're like meeting, they're all sort of butting up against each other. If you can see how that's looking right there in the center. They're closer, but they're actually spaced. They're just spaced differently. I won't overcomplicate matters by trying to explain what I actually meant by that there. Okay, so last petal, and just want to make sure I get that in where I want it. Okay. All right, and last one. Okay. All right. Snip that. Okay, so we are done adding our petals. So this is what we have. Okay. And so what you're going to want to do with your center, and I've done so many videos and I can't believe I never thought of this before, but with this center in particular, and I had the same kind of, not really an issue, but just the same kind of thing happen with I think it was my St. Patrick's Day one, where I had a little bit showing around here, and you can certainly go in and sort of stretch the bottom of these petals a little to make sure that there's, you know, no mesh showing. We put these really close together by going a little bit in from that black line. I kind of went like 1 or 2 squares in from where I drew that. We are going to be totally fine as far as covering all of our work. But another thing you can do is, since there are 5 petals and there are 5 petals, what you would want to do is just line them up so that they, you know, each petal is like going in the direction of the petals, which I'm a tad off, but that will help hide anything that needs to be hidden. Okay. So for this, all you're doing is, I'm just going to go right in through the middle here. I have a little bit of space. I'm just making sure I'm like a couple squares apart, so that way I can give it a good twist in the back. Okay. And pull that tight. Come onto the back here and give that a twist, a couple of twists. Okay. And then you can either, you know, you can cut this, you can sort of weave it back through the mesh, which is usually what I end up doing, is I kind of just go back through and then do a few twists here, just because I don't necessarily like to cut this in case for some reason I wanted to take the center out and change it. It's always harder to get back in if you've cut your pipe cleaner really short. And also because I don't want there to be this bulky like piece of pipe cleaner sticking out the back. Okay. And there you have it. Okay. So you have your nice little white center. You can certainly jazz this up with maybe some glitter, some like a decal. You can totally change this up entirely. Check out my other flower center video where I show you how to make a flower center out of 2 or 3. I think for this you could get away with 2 9x12 pieces of felt. You could make this cute little fringed center. Or I also have in a different video, I have a burlap rosette center that you make with some pieces of burlap, but that's in a separate video. But that would be something else that you could do if you wanted to just not use this all together. I always like to provide something for the center though. And I thought this kind of was like, it almost reminded me a little bit of like a puffy cloud in the middle of our rainbow flower. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please be sure to check out the description box below where you will find a link to purchase this kit. You'll see a link to my Etsy shop where you can buy pre-made wreaths. So if you're not into the DIY, you can buy something that's already made. You can also check out my social media. I do Facebook Lives fairly often. A lot of times they do end up on YouTube, but there is content that is only on Facebook, and then there's content that's only on YouTube. So if you're on Facebook, be sure to check that out so you can watch me make something live and be able to ask questions and things like that. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. And please be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with any future videos that I have available. Thank you again for watching and have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye.